Let yourself grow still for a moment. There is nowhere you need to be tonight, and nothing here that needs solving. If you can, dim the lights a little and let your body settle into whatever holds it. The bed, the chair, the pillow beneath your head. You do not have to stay awake for any of this. Drifting off whenever the quiet finds you is not only allowed, it is the whole idea. Take one slow breath now, in through the nose, and let it go without any effort at all. Feel the weight of your shoulders come down a little, and then a little more. Notice how the room is already softer than it was a moment ago. How the small sounds of the day are beginning to move quietly away. Nothing here asks anything of you tonight. You are simply going to rest and to be carried somewhere very far and very calm. The day you have had can end now. Whatever it held, whatever was left unfinished, it can wait on the far side of the night without you, and it will keep until morning. So let your hands go loose, let your jaw unclench, and your face soften, and the long muscles of your back give up their holding, one by one, into the quiet. And you are not doing this alone. For the next long while, someone is here with you in the dark, telling the slow way out, keeping you gentle company as the world goes quiet. You need not hold up your end of anything. Just let the voice go on, soft and low and unhurried, and let it carry the thinking so that you no longer have to. Wherever your mind has been running all day, it can slow now and rest here and follow this one calm thread out among the stars, or let go of even that and simply sleep. Ahead of us, far off in the black, there is a single point of pale light. It is small from here and cold and calm, no larger to the eye than a distant lamp left burning in an empty house. That light is the Sunday, and tonight we are going to leave it slowly behind. We will drift outward from it gently, without any hurry at all, past every world in its turn. Past the small rocky planets near the warmth we will go, past the wide and quiet scattering of the Asteroid Belt, out to the great slow giants and their rings, and on into the deep blue cold beyond them. We will pass through the frozen belts at the far reaches and keep going, out to the faint edge where the solar system loosens its hold and fades softly into the dark between the stars. Each place will come to us in its own time, and each will drift away again behind us when we are ready to let it go. That is the whole of the journey. There is no puzzle waiting at the end, nothing you need to remember, no destination you have to reach. Follow along as much or as little as you like, and if your attention wanders off into sleep before we are done, that is perfectly fine, because the drift will carry you onward all the same. Only a long, calm passage outward through the quiet, one still place after another. We will go slowly, more slowly than seems possible, and we will slow further with every stop. Nothing tonight will move quickly, nothing will flash or startle or ask you to hurry. The whole way out is meant to be gentle, a steady loosening, a settling deeper and deeper into the dark until the moving and the waking and the thinking all quietly let go of you at once. Let your breathing slow to match it. Breathe in, unhurried, and let it go. If it feels right to you, a gentle like or a quiet subscribe helps this little channel drift along. And then we will not mention it again, and nothing more will ask for your attention for the rest of the night. So settle in now, and let the room go soft around you. We begin close to that pale, distant light, and we let it carry us outward into the dark. Slowly, so slowly that you will hardly notice the moment it happens, we begin to move away from the Sunday. And so we begin where everything here begins, beside the star we live next to, the one we so rarely stop to look at. Let it hang there in the dark for a moment, a pale blue-white light, cool and steady, ringed by a thin cyan haze that fades away into the near black around it. There is no heat in the way we are seeing it now, no gold, no burning, none of the fierce brightness you would have to look away from at noon, only a quiet, luminous circle, patient in the emptiness, holding all the small worlds in place without effort and without sound. Around its edge, if you let your eyes soften, you can almost sense the faint outer glow that always surrounds it. A pale corona of light, so thin, it seems more like a held breath than a fire. That glow reaches far out into the space around the star, further even than the star itself, fading so gradually that no one could ever say quite where it truly ends. We will be traveling through the very last of it for a long while yet, though it is far too gentle now to feel. Think of it as a soft and endless exhale, still going on all around us as we drift. One more gentle thing is worth knowing before we go. Nearly all of it, every planet and belt and ring we are about to pass, lies spread out on very nearly the same flat plane, like leaves resting on the surface of a still pond, all of them circling in the same unhurried direction. So our whole long drift outward will keep to that same calm level, gliding out along the quiet disk of the worlds, rather than wandering up or down into the dark. There is an order to it, soft and old and dependable, and you can lean back into that order now and trust it to carry you true. And think, for just a moment, how much of your own life this one small light has quietly touched. Every warm afternoon you can remember, every long golden evening, every dawn that ever woke you, all of it was this same star, this same patient light crossing the same 93 million miles to find you. The light that warmed your childhood is the very light we are leaving now. So there is nothing cold in this departure, and nothing lost. We are only drawing back far enough, at last, to see the whole of the thing that has been shining on us all along. For all that it does, the surface of the star is oddly peaceful to rest your gaze upon. Slow bright cells rise and turn and sink again across its face, the way the surface of a warm pot moves just before it simmers, only unimaginably vast and unimaginably slow. Here and there a darker patch drifts by, cooler than the rest, wandering gently across the disk over days and then fading away. None of it is hurried and none of it is loud. The whole enormous engine of the star simply glows and turns and keeps its own patient time, as it has done since long before anyone was here to watch. It is very old, this star, about 4.5 billion years old, which is longer than the mind can really carry. So there is no need to try to hold it. Long before the ground you are resting on, long before the seas, long before anything at all that could look up and wonder about it, this light was already here, already shining, already turning slowly in the dark. And it will go on shining, calm and unhurried for a very long time after tonight, after everyone who is sleeping now, after more nights than we could ever hope to number. You do not have to keep any of that. Let it simply be true, quietly, at the far side of your thoughts. For all its stillness, this pale circle is the reason everything here holds together. Every world we are about to pass, every ring and every frozen stone, every drifting speck of ice at the farthest edge of the dark, all of it is kept by the quiet pull of this one light. Nothing out here is chained or fastened down. Things are simply held, the way a hand might cup a little water gently enough that nothing ever spills. That soft holding reaches out almost unimaginably far, past the last of the planets, past the places we will visit tonight, loosening only by the smallest degree with every mile. You are held by it too, in this very moment, resting somewhere deep inside its vast and patient reach. The light you are seeing left the star a little while ago. It takes about 8 minutes for that light to cross the space between the star and the small world we are leaving behind. The quiet gap between the Sunday and the Earth, about 93 million miles of nothing at all. So the warmth that touches a face turned upward on a summer afternoon set out from the star 8 minutes before it ever arrived, drifting patiently across all that empty dark to reach it. Even the light is unhurried here, taking its time, never once seeming to rush. Hold that distance for a moment, that gentle stretch from the Sunday to the Earth, about 93 million miles. Let it settle, because it is the small ruler we will carry with us the whole way out. Every step from here will be measured against it, softly, one length of that quiet gap, and then another, and then far more of them than we could ever count. Think of it as a single calm pace, the very first pace of a long and unhurried walk. That first step outward is enough for now, and there is nothing past it you need reach for yet. Nothing about that ruler needs to be held tightly. You do not have to add the steps up or keep track of where we are, or remember a single number from all of this. The measuring is only a soft way of feeling how far we drift, a quiet rhythm underneath the journey, the way you might notice your own footsteps on a long night walk without ever bothering to count them. Let the numbers pass through you and dissolve. Only the drifting matters, and the drifting asks nothing of you. Notice, too, how good it feels simply to be moving away from something for once, with no effort of your own. All day the world pulls inward, toward tasks and toward worry, gathering everything tight around you. Out here, the pull runs the other way, outward, loosening, opening. Each mile setting a little more space between you and everything you were carrying. You are not running from any of it. Rather, you are only drifting free of it, the way a boat slips its mooring on a still morning and eases out onto open water quietly and without looking back. And now we turn slowly. Without hurry, we turn our backs to the star and let it begin to shrink behind us. It grows smaller and paler and calmer, a coin of cold light, then a bright bead, then only a bright point among the scattered stars, no longer the center of the sky, but simply one more far light in the dark. There is nothing to fear in that. Distance is only gathering gently around us, the way sleep gathers, the way a room grows dim when someone lowers the lamp by the smallest turn. The near black opens ahead of us, deep and soft and endless, and the small worlds are waiting out there in the cold, each one held in its own slow orbit around that pale point behind us. Before we drift all the way out to the far edge, we let ourselves fall inward first, toward the nearest of them, the little worlds that circle closest to the light, toward Mercury and Venus and the pale blue home we are leaving, and the quiet red desert that waits just beyond it. So we go inward first, gently, one calm world at a time. And farther along that same slow drift, the first of the small worlds comes into view, and there is no need to hurry toward it. You are only passing, and passing is enough. This one is Mercury, the closest of all the planets to the fire you have left behind, riding its orbit at about 36 million miles from the Sunday. Up close, it is a quiet, cratered stone, smaller than you might imagine. A grey world marked all over with the soft round scars of very old impacts, each of them long since gone still. It carries almost nothing of the softness you know. There is no real air here, nothing to hold the warmth or to spread it about, nothing to soften the light or to carry the smallest sound from one place to the next. Being nearest to the star, this little world hurries around it faster than any of the others, tracing its whole orbit again and again, while the outer worlds have barely begun to move. Yet it turns upon itself very slowly, so that its days are long and strange, the Sunday crawling across a black and airless sky. So Mercury lives in two extremes at once, kept apart by that missing air. Where the star stands directly overhead, the ground climbs to something near 800 degrees, hot enough that lead itself would soften and pool. On the far side, in the long shadow of its own slow night, the very same ground falls hundreds of degrees below freezing, colder than any winter that has ever touched the Earth. Between those two, in the thin seam where day meets night, there is only rock and stillness and the slow turning of a world with no one at all to notice it. There is a strange peace in a place, so untouched that nothing on it has ever once been disturbed. No wind has ever moved there, and no rain has ever fallen. Every footprint and impact left 1 billion years ago is still exactly where it was, waiting in the dark for no one. Let it drift behind you now, quietly, the way a single lit window slides past a train in the night. For all its extremes, there is nothing troubled about that little world. It simply is what it is, bare and honest and old, keeping no secrets and asking no questions. Sometimes the most restful things are the very simplest. A stone in the dark, a slow turn, the same patient face shown to the same distant star. Let Mercury be that kind of restful thing for you now, a small plain fact in an enormous quiet, and feel how little it needs from you as it slips away behind. And farther still, a softer glow gathers ahead, pale and blurred and gentle, and this is Venus. From here, she looks almost tender, wrapped from pole to pole in a thick, unbroken veil of cloud, so smooth and so complete that you cannot see the ground at all, only the pale sheen of the haze holding the last of the light. This is the brightest of all the planets in our sky, the one people have always known as the evening star, the first calm light to appear after sunset, and the last to fade at dawn. It is a beautiful, muffled kind of world, and it keeps its own strange and unhurried time. A single day on Venus, one slow turn beneath those clouds, lasts longer than the whole of its year, so that here a world finishes its long journey around the Sunday before it finishes turning even once upon itself. Stranger still, it turns the wrong way round, so that if you could stand beneath that endless cloud and wait out the long, long day, you would see the Sunday rise not in the east, but in the west, and cross the sky so slowly, you could scarcely tell it moved. Imagine that softly, and then let it go, a place where the day outlasts the year, where the sky would seem to stand almost perfectly still. Beneath the veil, the surface is the hottest of any planet in the whole family, near 900 degrees, held in by the heavy air the way a thick blanket keeps warmth long after the fire has gone out. But you need not go down into it. There is nothing waiting there for us tonight, no ground we need to touch. From out here, it is only a smooth, pale lamp, veiled and quiet and slowly turning, and we let it pass as well. One more soft light sliding by in the dark. And now, farther along, a small blue point steadies in the dark ahead, and something in you settles a little when you see it, because this one you know. This is Earth, and beside it, close by in the black, its single pale moon, only about 239,000 miles from the world it circles, near enough to be a faithful companion, far enough to be its own quiet stone. Stay here a moment. There is no reason at all to move on quickly. Everything you have ever known is gathered on that small blue point. Every morning you have woken to, every voice you have loved, every person who has ever lived a single day, all of it held on that one soft light, no wider than a speck of dust from here. Oceans you have swum in, roads you have walked, windows you have watched the rain against. All of it is there, on that single quiet gleam, and none of it needs anything from you right now. You can let the whole weight of it rest for a while, and simply look. And the little moon beside it has been keeping that world company for a very long time, drawing the tides up and letting them down again, easing the seas gently in and out along every shore, night after night, for far longer than there have been eyes to watch them. Slowly, so slowly that no one could ever feel it, that moon is drifting a little farther away with every passing year, by no more than the width of a fingernail's growth. Even here, in the closest and most familiar corner of the sky, everything is quietly, patiently letting go. There is a soft comfort in that, in knowing that even the moon drifts, and that the drifting harms nothing at all. Someone once made a photograph of it from a very long way out. On a day in February, on the 14th, in the year 1990, a small spacecraft called Voyager turned its camera back toward home from about 3.7 billion miles away, and in that image, the Earth is nothing more than a single pale blue dot, one faint point of light suspended in a soft beam of scattered sunlight. Everyone you love, everyone who has ever been, all of it on that one small point. And there is nothing frightening in it. It is only very quiet and very tender, the way a house looks small and warm when you see it from the top of the hill at dusk, with the lamps just beginning to come on inside. Let your eyes rest there as long as you like. When you are ready, and only then, let it grow small behind you too. Let the sight of home settle you now, rather than pull at you. You are not truly leaving it behind, so much as seeing it whole. All at once, the way you never can from inside it. Everything down there is going on without needing you tonight, softly in the dark, the cities and the seas and the sleeping houses all turning slowly toward morning. And that is exactly as it should be. So breathe once, slowly, and let the small blue light take its quiet place among the others. All your life you have stood upon that point, looking outward, wondering what lay past the sky. Tonight you are on the other side of that wondering, looking back at the place all the questions came from. and finding it smaller and calmer and more precious than any worry ever made it seem. Let that gentleness stay with you as we go. There is nothing out ahead of us to fear, and nothing behind us that is not safe. And farther out, cooler now, a soft red world comes near, and this is Mars. It is a cold desert, wide and rust-colored and still, where even in the middle of the day the thin air stays cold, and the temperature can sink far below anything you have ever felt, to something like 80 degrees below zero, colder than the deepest night on Earth. But it is not a barren nothing. There are dry riverbeds here, carved long ago by water that has since vanished, and long dunes that the wind still moves, grain by grain, in a silence you could almost lean into. By day, the sky above those dunes glows a soft butterscotch, dimmed by fine dust hanging in the thin air. And when the distant Sunday goes down, the color quietly inverts, and the light around the setting star turns a cool and gentle blue, the opposite of a sunset back home. At the poles lie caps of ice that grow and shrink with seasons, much like our own, whitening in the long cold and drawing back again as the far light returns. Rising above the red plains stands a single vast volcano, the tallest in all the solar system, several times the height of the greatest mountain on Earth, yet so broad and so gentle in the slope of its sides that if you stood upon it, you might climb for a very long time and never once feel that you had begun to climb at all. Two small moons keep the planet company, little more than dark drifting stones, circling quietly in the thin light. Let Mars turn slowly beneath you, red going softly into shadow, and drift on. And then, farther still, the last of the small worlds falls behind, and ahead of us, the space grows wider and emptier and darker, scattered here and there with rubble and broken stone. Toward that wide dark scattering we drift now, unhurried, in no hurry at all to arrive. And farther still we drift, leaving Mars and its cold red quiet behind us, into a wide dark region that lies between the fourth world and the first of the great giants. This is the Asteroid Belt, and you may have pictured it, as most of us once did, as a crowded and dangerous thing, a dense swirl of tumbling stone, a place a traveler must weave through carefully just to survive. Let that picture soften now and let it fall away, because it is not so. The truth is far gentler than the story and far emptier, and the emptiness itself turns out to be a kind of rest. Long ago, when the worlds were forming out of the same slow cloud, the material here might have gathered itself into one more small planet, another rocky world to sit between Mars and the giants. But the great pull of Jupiter just beyond kept stirring it, tugging at it, never letting it settle and draw together. So it stayed as it was, a field of leftover pieces that never became a world, scattered wide and left to drift. There is nothing broken about it, nothing that went wrong. It is simply a place where a planet was gently prevented from being, and where the pieces have circled in peace ever since. There are, it is true, a great many rocks out here. Millions upon millions of them, scattered in slow wide orbits around the distant Sunday, some as large as a mountain, most no bigger than a house, and a great many no larger than a single stone you might pick up and turn over in your hand. But the space they are given is so vast, so unhurried, and so wide that they almost never come anywhere near one another. Spread thin across a band that is itself tens of millions of miles deep, they drift with hundreds of thousands of miles of empty dark between them, and very often a great deal more than that. To give it a shape you can feel, the distance from one asteroid to the next is on average greater than the whole distance from the Earth out to its moon, and frequently many times greater still. So imagine yourself drifting straight through the very middle of the belt. You might expect to see stones streaming past your eyes, to sense the hush of near misses somewhere in the dark. Instead, there is only the quiet and the far small light of the Sunday grown pale behind you, and stillness reaching away in every direction. You could pass all the way through the belt, from its near edge to its far edge, and never once watch a single rock go by. So faint are the odds of drifting, close to even one, that every spacecraft we have ever sent this way has crossed it without the smallest concern, gliding through the wide nothing untouched, as if the belt were scarcely there at all. There is something restful in a place so empty, in learning that the crowded picture was never quite true. Out here, the danger you may have been taught to expect simply is not waiting for you, and you can let your guard down entirely and drift and trust the wide dark to carry you gently as you pass. Here and there, if your eyes happen to wander and settle, you might catch one lone stone very far off, turning slowly end over end, its rough grey face taking the faint cold light and holding it a moment in dim cyan before letting it slip away again. One tumbling shape, small against an enormous field of black. Then nothing again, for a long and peaceful while. The waiting between them is not empty in the way that a missing thing is empty. It is more like the quiet of a wide field at night, restful precisely because so little is there. So there is nothing here to keep watch for, and nothing at all you must do. You may simply let the belt drift by a scattering of far quiet stones in an ocean of dark, and let its emptiness teach you a little of its ease. The old worry that something is coming, that you must stay alert, that you cannot yet let go, finds no place to hold out here at all. Set it down gently among the stones and drift on lighter than you came, for this is a good place to practice the letting go that the rest of the night will ask of you. Out here, nothing needs guarding, nothing needs deciding, nothing needs to be held together by your attention. The belt has looked after itself for billions of years without a single watcher, and it will go on doing so long after you have fallen asleep. Trust it, the way you might trust a quiet road at night, and let your mind grow as spacious and as empty and as calm as the dark between the stones. The largest thing out here is a small round world called Ceres, heavy enough and old enough to have pulled itself into a soft grey sphere, a little dwarf world drifting alone among all the scattered rest. Not far behind it, in size, comes another called Vesta, brighter than the others, catching a little more of the far light on its face. And yet, for all the millions upon millions of members, the whole belt taken together, every last stone gathered into one place, would still weigh far less than our own single moon. Gather every asteroid into one hand, and even then it would not come near to equaling that pale companion that circles the Earth, emptier and lonelier and more spacious than you would ever have thought. And in all that vast unpeopled quiet, there is nothing whatsoever that needs your attention, nothing to avoid, nothing to solve. If you drifted near Ceres and let yourself hover above it, you would find a world without weather, without wind, without any sound at all to break the stillness. Its grey surface is marked here and there with the faint bright glimmer of old salts, pale patches where something once seeped up from within and dried in the cold and the dark. Nothing there moves quickly. Little there has changed in a very long time. It simply turns, slowly, keeping its own patient company, as it has done since before there were eyes anywhere at all to see it. So much emptiness, and so little happening, and yet none of it the least bit sad. This is simply what most of the universe is like, patient and spacious and calm, far more quiet room than busy matter. Learning to find that restful rather than lonely is a gift the belt can quietly give you. Take it with you as you go, this ease with empty space, and let it make the long dark ahead feel less like an absence and more like peace. So we let the belt thin behind us, sparser and darker, with every mile, the last of the stones falling away one by one into the dark. Then, slowly, far ahead in the deepening night, a faint banded glow begins to gather and to grow, the first of the great giants drawing near. And so you drift on slower. Now, the way a wide river slows and quiets as it deepens. The scattering of the belt thins away behind you, and ahead the dark begins to hold a single steady point of light, growing patient until it is no longer a point but a world, and then a world larger than anything you have passed so far. This is Jupiter, and you come to it gently, without hurry, the way you might approach something far too large to take in all at once. Let yourself simply rest here for a while and take it in slowly. Jupiter is the largest world the Sunday keeps, by a very wide margin. If you gathered every other planet together, all the small stony ones and the great ringed ones alike, and set them upon one side of a scale, Jupiter alone would still outweigh them all together and have room to spare. It is a world made almost entirely of gas, hydrogen and helium, much the same light stuff the Sunday is made of, though it would have needed to be many times more massive still to ever kindle into a star of its own. So it stayed a planet, an enormous one, with no hard ground anywhere to stand upon, only deeper and deeper cloud, giving way at last to strange dense seas far below. Around the whole enormous globe run long parallel bands of cloud, drawn out into streams by winds that never stop. In this cold and even light, those bands do not glow amber or gold. They red instead in slow tones of teal and deep violet, cool ribbons wrapped around a cooler sphere, turning so gently to your eye that you would almost swear the whole vast world were not turning at all. Yet it turns faster than any other planet here, wheeling all the way around in only 10 hours, its enormous body carried so smoothly that the motion never once seems hurried from this far away. More than 90 moons drift around it, a whole small system of its own turning in the dark, some no larger than a single mountain, a few nearly the size of a planet. 4 of them are large and old and easy to love. There is Io, restless and warm, and Callisto, dark and cratered and still. Ganymede is the greatest of them, larger even than the planet Mercury, the biggest moon anywhere in the Sunday's whole family. And there is Europa, wrapped in a smooth shell of ice, with a deep dark ocean of liquid water hidden far beneath it. One of the quietest and strangest seas we know of anywhere. You do not need to count them, or to name them, or to hold any of them in mind. Let them simply be there, faint points of light keeping their patient company around the great world, the way lamps might be left burning softly in far windows, while you drift slowly past them on open water. And there, low in the southern bands, turns the great red spot. It is a storm, a single enormous storm that has been turning in that same place for centuries, longer than anyone has kept a written watch upon it. Wide enough to swallow the whole earth and still leave room to spare. It holds no menace at all from here, at this calm distance, in this cold and even light. What you see is only a slow eye of shadow and muted rose, rolling over and over in the same patient spot, gentled entirely by how far away from it you are. Over the long years, it has even been drawing in a little, growing slowly smaller and rounder, as though it too were winding gradually down. Distance has quietly taken all the fury out of it and left behind only the turning. Let it turn, you have nowhere else to be, and nothing it could ever ask of you. And farther still, the drift carries you on, slower again, toward a light that does not blaze so much, as it seems to be wearing something soft around itself. This is Saturn, and here, of all the places on this long journey, you may choose to linger longest of all. Come to it slowly. Let the holds grow long, and let your own breathing lengthen to match them. Here is a strange and gentle thing to know about this world before you look closely. For all its great size, Saturn is the lightest of all the planets, made of stuff so airy that if there were an ocean wide enough to hold it, the whole vast globe would float upon the water like a cork. Picture that softly, a planet light enough to drift, and let it add to the sense of ease as you draw near. Saturn hangs there in the dark, encircled by its rings, and the rings are the thing you rest your eyes upon now. They are not solid, not a smooth ribbon of stone, as they seem from far away. What forms them instead are countless separate pieces of water, ice, most no larger than something you could hold in your two-cupped hands, some as small as grains of sand, all of them drifting together in the same wide and unhurried orbit, so many of them side by side, that from here they blur into a single luminous sweep of light. In this cold air, they show as thin arcs of pale cyan, faintly glowing, curving around the planet like something drawn with the very lightest possible hand. They reach outward for something near 170,000 miles, a span so wide it is difficult to hold steady in the mind, and yet in most places they are only tens of feet from top to bottom, thinner in proportion than a single sheet of paper laid flat across a wide room. When you drift slowly around toward their edge, they narrow and narrow again until they very nearly vanish altogether. A fine line of cool light so thin, it seems for a moment that the planet has quietly set them aside. Then, as you keep on moving, they open again, slowly and patiently, back into their full and quiet sweep. Watch them open. There is no hurry anywhere in this. You can stay with it as long as you like, the pale arcs curving out and out into the dark, the planet resting still at their center, everything moving and yet nothing moving quickly. The whole vast slow machine of it turning at a pace that asks nothing of you at all. Let your breath lengthen here to the pace of those rings, in slowly as they curve out into the light, out slowly as they sweep away into shadow. There is a rhythm to this whole quiet system, unbelievably slow, and if you let yourself fall into step with it, the drowsiness will come on its own, gathering like the cold settling like the dark. Far below, one of the inner moons catches your eye for a moment. The restless one called Io, its surface faintly aglow with slow warmth from deep within. Dim embers of red and dusky rose that rise and fade over long hours. Even here, so far from the Sunday, a small world keeps its own quiet fire, patient and unhurried, asking nothing of anyone. Watch it dim and brighten if you like, a soft heartbeat at the edge of the great ringed world, and then let it go. Nothing here needs your watching. Everything here will carry on turning, warm or cold, lit or dark, whether or not you stay awake to see it. Among the moons that circle within and beyond those rings, one small icy world sends up faint fountains of its own. Enceladus, bright and white and no larger than a wide country, quietly breathes soft plumes of frozen spray from cracks near its far pole, feeding the faintest of the rings with its own slow snow. There is nothing forceful in it, only a gentle exhaling into the dark, over and over, patient as breathing. Let it drift there at the edge of your attention, a small white light adding its quiet gift to the great sweep of ice. And near Saturn, one moon asks for a slow glance before you go, Titan. It is a large moon, larger even than some of the planets, and it is wrapped from top to bottom in a thick golden haze that hides its whole surface entirely from view. In this cold light, that haze does not burn or glare. It reads dim and cool instead, a muted crescent of slate and faded violet, a soft glow with the world itself kept secret somewhere beneath it. Alone among all the moons, Titan holds a real and heavy sky of its own, thick enough to have weather, thick enough that clouds gather in it and a slow rain falls. Down there, hidden out of sight below the haze, there are lakes, not lakes of water, for it is far too cold for water to flow here. What fills the low ground instead is liquid methane, still and dark and smooth, gathered into quiet seas beneath a sky you could never see through, fed by rivers and by that slow cold rain, the only other place we know of anywhere where standing liquid pools upon an open surface. Imagine standing on a dim shore there, a still black lake before you, an orange sky above, and everything hushed and heavy and slow. Let Titan hang there, a dim cool crescent at the very edge of the ringed world, and let it slip away softly as you drift past. 2 moons, then, at this one ringed world, each holding a secret of its own, a hidden ocean here, a cold black sea there, both wrapped in silence and shown only to the dark. Think how many quiet wonders there are out here that no one will ever stand beside, unfolding anyway patiently, whether or not they are ever seen. There is a deep calm in that thought, in a universe that does not need an audience to go gently on. Let it all go on without you now, and close your eyes upon it, and you will lose nothing at all. You have come now to the middle of the long journey, to the 2 great slow worlds that rest at the very heart of it, and you have lingered here as long as ever you wished to. Behind you, the rings still turn, the great storm still rolls in its place. The pale moons still keep their far windows lit, and all of it grows gently smaller and softer as the drift quietly resumes, and farther still the light thins around you. Ahead the dark deepens by a degree, you feel more than see, and the Sunday behind you has grown smaller now, no longer a fire but a bright and distant star among the other stars. On we go, past the great giants and their held light, slower and quieter than before, toward the cold giants, waiting in the near dark, where even this faint remaining warmth no longer reaches. And farther still, the light grows fainter, the color grows colder, and everything out here seems to move more slowly than it did before. The great storms of the giants are behind us now, hushed and left to roll on in the dark, and ahead of us lie the two worlds that keep to the very far edge of the planets. They are called the ice giants, and the name is a gentle and a fitting one. There is no rush at all to reach them. Let the last of the sunlight thin around you as you drift, and let the cold settle in like a quiet you have been waiting a long time for. The first of them is Uranus, a smooth pale sphere, the soft color of clouded cyan. That gentle blue-green comes from methane high in its air, which quietly drinks in the red light and lets only the cool tones return to your eye. For most of history, no one knew this world was here at all. It was the first planet ever found through a telescope, gently swimming into view one evening long ago, a faint disk where everyone had only ever seen a star. A calm color, an even color, without the banded turmoil of the great worlds you have already passed. It hangs there almost featureless, wrapped in a haze so smooth it seems half asleep. But there is one strange and quiet thing about Uranus, and it asks nothing of you except to be noticed. This world is tipped almost the whole way over onto its side. Its axis leans nearly 98 degrees, so that instead of spinning upright like the other planets, it simply rolls along its path, lying down as it goes. Picture a ball rolling slowly around the edge of a vast dim room, rather than a spinning top standing upright at its center. No one is quite certain how it came to lie this way. Perhaps, very long ago, something large drifted into it and left it resting gently on its side forever after. Because it lies down as it travels, its seasons stretch out long and slow beyond easy imagining. One pole faces the distant Sunday for year upon year upon year, while the other waits out an equally long night, unbroken, patient, and dark. Out here, the warmth that reaches it is almost nothing at all. Uranus is among the very coldest places in the whole family of planets, its air sinking to somewhere near 370 degrees below zero. A few faint rings circle it, thin and dark and hard to see, and a scattering of small moons keep it company in the cold. There is no harshness at all in the way it holds any of this. It is only very far and very still, turning on its side in the dark with its pale cyan face, asking for nothing, keeping its own slow and patient time. Rest with Uranus a moment longer, this pale sphere lying quietly on its side, in no distress at all about its strange position. It does not struggle to right itself, but simply goes on as it is, tipped over and calm, making its slow way around the far edge of the light. There is a small permission in that, if you would like it, to stop trying to hold yourself upright too, to let go of the effort of arranging everything just so, and to rest exactly as you are, in whatever shape the day has left you. And farther still, past Uranus, you come at last to the final major planet, and here you may rest a good long while. This is Neptune, and it lies about 2.8 billion miles from the Sunday. There is a quiet wonder in how we first came to know it. Before anyone ever saw this world, someone worked out with pencil and paper that it had to be there, reading its hidden weight in the small wanderings of the planet just inside it, and pointed a telescope to the empty place where the numbers said to look, and found it waiting. So Neptune was known in the mind before it was ever known to the eye. A world discovered in the quiet of a study before it was discovered in the sky. If you imagine the whole journey as a walk of measured steps, each single step, the quiet gap from the Sunday to the Earth, then Neptune stands some 30 of those steps out from where you first began, far along the road, deep in the gathering dark. It is a deep and settled blue, a richer blue than Uranus, almost an indigo where the last faint light falls across it. So far away is it that a single year there, one slow trip around the Sunday, lasts about 165 of ours, longer than any life, longer than most of what we remember. In the darkness, it can seem perfectly calm, a still round stone of blue set softly into black. And for a long moment, it may look like the most peaceful place you have ever seen. And yet, quietly, beneath that calm blue face, Neptune moves. Of all the planets in the whole family, this far and frozen one carries the very fastest winds. High in its air, the great gales race at nearly 2,000 kilometers in a single hour, faster than any storm on any other world. And they do it in near silence, in the deep cold, so far from the Sunday that it is hard to understand where such motion could ever find its strength. Only once have we ever visited a single small craft passing by long ago, and it glimpsed a dark drifting spot in the clouds, a storm that later softened and faded and was gone. You need not solve any of it. Let it simply be true, a soft mystery turning slowly in the dark, while you drift along beside it, unbothered and at ease. There is nothing to fear in a wind that will never once reach you, that does not even know that you are there. Around Neptune moves a single large moon called Triton, and it keeps a strange and gentle habit all of its own. Nearly every large moon in the whole solar system circles in the same direction that its planet turns. Triton does not. Backward, it goes instead, against the spin, as though it drifted in from somewhere else, very long ago, and was quietly gathered in and kept. A pale and icy world, colder on its surface than almost anywhere else we have ever measured. It is not entirely still, even out here in the deep cold. Soft plumes vent slowly from its frozen ground, faint dark fountains of nitrogen drifting up and leaning over in the thin wind, patient and unhurried. Nothing about it is loud, none of it is sudden. There is only a kind of quiet breathing at the very edge of everything. Out here, the cold is not something to brace against. It is only the temperature of distance, the natural quiet of a place the Sunday can barely reach, and from where you drift it cannot touch you at all. Let it be a clean and gentle cold, the kind that makes a warm bed feel warmer still, the kind you can sink down into without the slightest harm. The farther out we go, the deeper and softer that cold becomes, and the more it feels like rest. And how quiet it has grown out here, quieter than any silence you have ever stood inside. No wind moves between these worlds, nor has any sound ever crossed this dark. The great planets turn without a whisper, the moons drift without a sound, and the only motion anywhere is slow and smooth and endless. Let that silence settle over you, like a heavy blanket drawn up in the cold. You do not have to listen for anything. There is nothing out here to hear, and nothing that needs hearing. Only the deep hush of the far places holding still all around you. And if you turn now and look back the way that you have come, you will find that the Sunday has become something small. It is no longer the great warm light that once ruled over the inner worlds. From out here, it is only the brightest star among the stars, a single sharp point of light with no warmth left in it to give. Lovely and distant and far too small now to shade your eyes against. The whole bright center of the journey has quietly folded itself down into one calm spark behind you. So you have reached the last of the true planets, the far shore of the family of worlds, and beyond Neptune, the familiar map begins to run out. And farther still, past this final blue world, the space ahead grows darker and stranger and more sparse. A wide frozen country with no more planets left at all to mark the way. Let yourself keep drifting gently out into that quiet beyond. And farther still, past the deep blue of Neptune, the darkness opens out into something wide and patient, a great thin ring of frozen worlds spread all the way around the distant Sunday. This is the Kuiper Belt, and you drift into it slowly. The way you might wander into a quiet room you had almost forgotten was there. It begins about 30 times farther from the Sunday than the Earth is, and it reaches outward from there to nearly 50 times that same distance. A soft, scattered band of ice and rock turning gently in the cold. Nothing here is in a hurry. None of it has been in a hurry for a very long time indeed. Think of this place, if you like, as the quiet attic of the solar system. When the Sunday and all its planets first gathered themselves together about 4.5 billion years ago, there was material left over that never quite became a planet, of its own small icy bodies that settled out here in the dark and simply stayed. They have not been warmed, nor have they been broken or reshaped or stirred. They have drifted more or less untouched since the very beginning of everything, keeping the faithful memory of how it all first started, held gently and safely in the deep cold. To pass among them is to move through the leftover morning of the worlds, kept exactly as it was. The largest of them that we have come to know well is Pluto, resting about 3.7 billion miles from the Sunday. For most of a human lifetime, it was only a faint point of light, too far and too small to see as anything more than a speck. And then, after 9 long years of travel across all that empty dark, a small spacecraft called New Horizons swept quietly past it on a summer day in the year 2015. And all at once, Pluto became a place. There was a wide, pale plain, shaped almost like a heart, a smooth expanse of frozen nitrogen, so cold and so still, and so level that it looked poured rather than made. And that pale heart is not entirely still, though it moves too slowly ever to see. The frozen nitrogen creeps and turns over itself in vast slow cells, a glacier, the size of a country flowing at the pace of deep time, smoothing its own surface across the ages. Rising near its edges stand mountains, tall and sharp, made not of stone but of water ice, so deeply and thoroughly frozen out here that it holds its shape and behaves for all the world like solid rock. High above it all hangs a thin blue haze, a soft veil of sky wrapped around this small far world, catching the last of the distant light. Let your eyes rest on that pale frozen heart, cool and quiet against the black, and simply hold it there a while. Pluto does not travel alone. Close beside it drifts a large moon named Charon, so great in proportion to the little world it circles that the two of them swing instead around a still point in the space between, forever facing one another, a quiet pair turning slowly in the dark, each showing the other always the same patient face. And around them move a few smaller moons besides, tiny and tumbling, keeping their own faint company. It is a small family out here, far from everything, holding gently together at the cold edge of the map. Picture that pair for a moment, Pluto and its great moon, forever turned to face each other across the small gap between them, neither one ever looking away. Out in the loneliest reaches of the map, they are not lonely at all. They have each other, locked in the same slow gaze, keeping a companionship that has lasted longer than the Earth has had its oceans. Let that be a warm thing to carry into the deeper dark ahead. That even out here, at the far cold edge, some things drift together and are never alone. The little spacecraft did not stop. Stopping was never possible and never the plan, and so it carried on outward instead, deeper into the belt, farther from the Sunday than anything human hands had ever visited up close. And then, on the very first day of the year 2019, on New Year's Day itself, it drifted quietly past something smaller, and stranger still, a little world we have named Oort. Oort is two soft rounded lobes joined gently together, one larger and one smaller, resting against each other like a snowman laid quietly down upon its side. It is the most distant world we have ever seen up close. A dark and rounded shape, far out in the cold, lit only faintly in cool blue light, its curves smooth and old and worn. Two ancient pieces that drifted toward each other very long ago, slowly, softly, and have simply leaned against one another ever since, in no hurry to become anything more. And Pluto and Oort are only the two we have visited. Scattered through this same wide belt are other small round worlds, some large enough to be counted their own kind of dwarf world, most no more than dim ice too faint and far to have earned a name. Each keeps to its own great slow orbit, unseen and undisturbed, part of the same quiet archive. You need not think of them one by one. Let them be a soft crowd of sleepers, spread thin across the dark, each one turning in its place. There is a strange peace in being among things this old and this unchanged. Nothing out here is being made or unmade tonight. What stood here 1 billion years ago is very nearly what stands here now, and what is here now will still be here 1 billion years from tonight, drifting on exactly as it does. You are passing through a place where time itself seems to have slowed almost to stopping, and you can let your own hurry slow to match it. Hold that thought as softly as you can, and then let even it drift off. All the rushing of your days, the deadlines and the clocks, and the sense that there is never quite enough time, none of it reaches out here. Out among these frozen worlds, a single day would pass unnoticed, a single lifetime less than a breath. So there is nothing you can be late for tonight, nothing you can miss, nothing that time can take from you while you rest. Let the clocks fall silent and drift on through the slow, deep patience of the dark. Out here, everything moves slowly. The Sunday is only a bright star now, giving a little light but almost no warmth at all. And these frozen worlds turn in their long, patient orbits, taking hundreds of years to circle the Sunday, even once. you are not looking at anything that hurries or changes or strives. What you are seeing instead are things that have simply stayed quietly for very nearly as long as there has been a Sunday for them to circle. Some are little more than mountains of dark ice, dim and cold, drifting so very far apart that one of them might travel for a long, long time without ever coming near another. There is nothing here at all to solve, nothing to reach for, only the slow turning of frozen worlds in the dark and the soft, steady drift of your own quiet attention among them. If you let your breathing slow to match their turning, it seems to fit, unhurried and even and calm, so you linger here a while. You let the pale heart of Pluto and the small leaning shape of Orokoth grow faint and fainter behind you, and you feel, without any effort, how very far you have come, how thin the light has grown, how gentle everything becomes this far from home. The frozen archive keeps all of its worlds silent and unhurried, and you pass through the whole of it without disturbing a single thing, the way you might move softly through a sleeping house late at night. And farther still, beyond even these frozen worlds, something else from the Sunday is reaching quietly outward alongside you. All this long while, a faint wind has been streaming out from the Sunday, a thin flow of tiny particles pushing gently into the dark. And out here, it is growing tired at last, thinning, slowing, losing the very last of its warmth. It has carried you this far without your ever once noticing it was there. Somewhere farther on there is a place where that long breath finally softens and comes to rest, where the Sunday's quiet reach meets its own gentle end. Toward that place we drift now, slowly, in no hurry at all, into the deepening calm. And farther still, past the frozen archive of the Kuiper Belt, the sky ahead begins to change in a way you cannot quite see, only feel. For this whole long drift outward, you have been traveling inside something without ever knowing it, a bubble. All this while, the Sunday has been breathing in its own slow and steady way. Not air, but a thin and constant wind of tiny particles, streaming out from its surface in every direction at once, faster than you could easily imagine, filling the space around every single world you have passed. That wind has carried the Sunday's presence outward for billions upon billions of miles, holding back the older darkness that lies between the stars, drawing a soft, invisible shell around all of it at once, around the planets, around the belts of ice, around you, this whole long way out. Now, at last, out here, that patient wind is finally running out of its strength. This is the Heliopause. It is the place where the Sunday's wind slows and thins and comes at last to a gentle rest against the cold gas that fills the space between the stars. Think of a wide, quiet river spreading out at last into a still and waiting lake. There is no wall here, no hard line drawn across the dark, only a soft threshold, a slow place where one calm thing fades quietly into another. On the near side lies the Sunday's long breath. Farther out waits the older and colder quiet that fills the space between all the stars in the galaxy. And somewhere in that soft wide meeting lies the true edge of the Sunday's reach. For almost the whole of human history, no one knew where that edge would be. It was only guessed at, imagined, sketched faintly in the mind. And then, very quietly, something we ourselves had made arrived all the way out here to tell us. In the summer of 1977, two small craft left the Earth, one soon after the other. Both were called Voyager, and both carried little more than curiosity, wrapped in metal and given a small warmth to keep. Passing the giant worlds one by one, they sent home their pictures, and then they simply kept going and going. Long after their first work was finished, drifting outward through decade after decade of silence, growing colder and fainter and more distant with every passing year. Each of them carries one more thing besides, a small golden record fixed to its side, holding the sounds and pictures of the world they came from. There are greetings on it in many languages, and the laughter of people, and the calls of birds and whales, and music gathered from all across the earth, sealed up and sent out into the dark on the small chance that someone, someday, might find it and listen. Think of that gently as they drift, two little libraries of home, carrying the sound of a summer afternoon farther from the Sunday than anything has ever gone. There is something tender in that reaching, in a small and worried world sending its gentlest sounds out into the dark, just in case we did not have to do it. Yet we gathered up birdsong and laughter and quiet music and sent them off with no promise of return, simply so that the emptiness out here might carry a little of home. Let that be a warm thought to hold as the craft drift on, that even in all this vast and freezing cold, someone once thought to send kindness on ahead, and there is company in it too for you tonight. The same restless, reaching kind that made those little travelers is the kind you belong to, the kind that has always looked up and wondered and wanted to know what lay past the edge. Tonight you get to make that same long journey, only softly from the warmth of where you lie, letting others do the drifting for you. So let the voyagers carry the far watch. You have done enough reaching for one day, and you are allowed now to simply rest and be carried. And then, in the late summer of the year 2012, one of them crossed over. Voyager 1, by then more than 11 billion miles from home, about 121 of those long steps we have been quietly counting since we left the Sunday, passed through the Heliopause. There was no fanfare out there, no sound, no moment of arrival that anyone could mark, only a change in the faint numbers it whispered back across all those miles. The Sunday's wind, which had surrounded it for the whole of its long journey, simply fell away. In its place came something denser and stiller, and even more deeply quiet, the gas that lies between the stars, the interstellar dark itself, closing softly around one small traveler from the Earth. It had become the very first thing our hands had ever made to leave the Sunday's bubble completely. And it did so in silence, still coasting, not knowing, not needing to know. Some 6 years later, late in the year 2018, its twin quietly followed. Voyager 2, drifting outward along a different path through the dark, crossed that same soft threshold and reported the very same gentle change, the wind fallen away, the new and denser quiet arriving in its place. Two small travelers, decades and billions of miles apart, both slipping past the edge of everything the Sunday could hold. They are still out there, even now, as you rest here tonight, as the world you left behind turns slowly through its own quiet nights. Those two faint craft are still coasting steadily outward through the dark, carrying their small warmth a little farther with every passing second, long past the place where the Sunday's wind gives out. That warmth will not last forever. One far-off year, the last of it will fade, and their voices will grow too faint to hear, and they will fall silent for good. Yet even then, they will not stop. long after their final whisper is gone, long after there is anyone left to listen. They will keep moving quietly and without any effort out into the space between the stars. You are past it now too, in your own gentle way, past the very last breath of the Sunday. Behind you lies the whole bright bubble you have crossed, the planets, the belts, the frozen worlds, all of it wrapped safely inside that fading wind. Ahead of you lies only the older quiet, deeper and softer and darker than anything that has come before. Let that be the quietest kind of milestone. You have crossed, without effort and without fear, the outer wall of the Sunday's own country, the farthest edge that its long breath can reach. Almost nothing that has ever existed has come this far, and you have done it lying still, warm and safe, carried gently on the drift, asking nothing, straining for nothing. Beyond here, the map grows faint, and the dark grows soft, and there is less and less to do now, but rest. And yet the Sunday is not quite finished with you, even here. Its wind may have come to rest at this threshold, but its gravity, gentle as a held breath, still reaches out much farther than this, into a place so far and so faint that no eye has ever seen it. A vast shell of frozen things, drifting slow and cold at the very outermost edge of the Sunday's long and patient hold. That shell is where you are drifting now. Onward we go together, quieter again into that faint frozen country at the edge of everything. And farther still, past the place where the Sunday's wind gave out, past the last thin edge of everything, the Sunday still pushes gently against. The space around us opens wider than any distance we have crossed so far tonight. There is nothing out here to mark the way. No boundary line, no signpost, no sudden change that you could ever feel. Only the slow, growing understanding that the planets are long behind us now, that the belt of ice beyond them is behind us too, and that ahead of us, there is only room. Room and the faint quiet promise that somewhere out in all this dark, the solar system is still, very gently, holding on. For this is where the Oort Cloud is thought to begin. It is not a cloud you could ever see, not a wall, not a shore you could ever stand upon. What waits here instead is a vast and almost weightless shell of frozen bodies, wrapped all the way around the Sunday in every direction at once, above it and below it, and straight through the middle, like the faintest breath of frost gathered around a candle that has very nearly gone out. This shell is thought to begin somewhere near 2,000 times the distance between the Earth and the Sunday, and to reach outward from there for a very long way indeed. Perhaps as far as a whole light year, perhaps even farther than that, which is to say, a good part of the way to the very nearest star. Out here, the true solar system turns out to be far larger and far emptier than the bright little map of planets ever once suggested. No one has ever seen it, not with any telescope, not with any spacecraft, not with any human eye. It is simply too faint and too far and too thinly spread across too much dark. We know that it is here, in much the way you know a dark room is not quite empty, by the soft evidence of the things that drift in from it. Every so often, a single frozen body far out in the shell is nudged, ever so slightly, by some faint and distant pull, and it begins the long, slow fall inward toward the Sunday. Millions of years later it arrives and warms and streams out a long bright tail across the night, and we call it a comet. Think of that for a moment, gently. A comet crossing our sky, watched for a few quiet evenings and then gone, may have begun its fall out here, in this very shell, back when the world was young, and it will not pass this way again for thousands of years, perhaps for longer than our whole kind has existed. Each one is a kind of slow letter sent in from the edge, taking an age to arrive, telling us softly that the shell is truly there, and that it is full beyond any easy imagining. Out here, there are thought to be trillions upon trillions of these icy bodies, each one a mountain of frozen water and dust and dark old ice, all of it left over from the very beginning, when the Sunday and its worlds were only just taking shape. And yet, for all their staggering number, they are spread so thinly through so much empty space that each one is almost entirely alone. Were you somehow standing upon one of them, the very next would be millions of miles away, far too distant ever to see, lost somewhere out in the dark. There is no crowding here, no jostling, no traffic of any kind. Only single frozen worlds, each one drifting by itself through an enormous and patient quiet. The loneliness of it is not a sad thing out here. It is only spaciousness, room enough for each small world to rest undisturbed forever, rest undisturbed. That is what everything does out here, and what you are quietly learning to do as well. No one is coming to this place. Nothing will arrive to break the calm, or ask a question, or need an answer before morning. It is the safest kind of quiet there is, a quiet so deep and so old that nothing within it has been troubled since the worlds began. Borrow a little of that safety now, and let it settle you all the way down, and they drift so very slowly. Out at this great distance, the Sunday's pull has grown gentle almost past all measuring, and so these bodies move at a wandering, unhurried pace, in orbits so vast and so wide that a single trip around the Sunday can take millions of years to complete. Hold that softly for a moment, without needing to grasp it. One single slow circle, begun long before there were ever people here to watch it, and not yet finished even now. Nothing out here is in any hurry. None of it has anywhere at all it needs to be. The whole immense shell simply turns, over unimaginable ages, in a silence deeper than anything closer in toward the light. Let the size of it be a comfort now, rather than a weight. All this room, all this unhurried dark, and not one corner of it needs anything from you. There is no edge you must reach tonight, no far wall to press against, no end that you are responsible for finding. The bigness that might once have unsettled is, out here, only the largest and softest quiet there is, with room enough to hold you and every care you carried in, and still stretch on empty, for a light year more. So let yourself grow small and easy inside it, the way a single warm light is small inside a wide night, and just as safe. You are not lost out here. Nothing that is held this gently is ever lost. The same faint pull that keeps these frozen worlds from wandering off keeps its soft hold on you as well. So far away now, so patient, so slow, that it feels less like being held and more like being trusted to drift. Drift, then, as far and as freely as you like, for the dark is kind, and there is nowhere out here you could ever fall. And from out here, the Sunday itself is no longer the Sunday that you knew. It is not a source of warmth now, not a face in the sky, not the bright center of anything you could feel upon your skin. only one small cool point of light among all the countless others, a single pale star that happens to be ours. No larger to the eye than the faint scattered stars around it. It would be lost among them entirely if you did not already know which one to seek. All that light, and all that warmth, and all that weight, the whole day and the whole sky of home softened out here into a single quiet pinprick in the dark. So, this is the last soft edge of the place the Sunday still gathers to itself. This faint frozen shell, these countless drifting sleepers, this slow wide breath of ice at the very far outer reach of everything. And beyond it, past its dim and uncertain rim, there is no next thing waiting for us, no farther room that still belongs to the Sunday. There is only the dark and the stars, spread out on every side, patient and unnumbered, going on and on into a quiet that has no edge to it at all. Toward that edgeless quiet, we drift now, gently and unafraid, and farther still, past the last of the frozen comets, past the faint outer edge of that great cold shell. The solar system does not end the way a room ends. There is no wall out here, no door, no line drawn across the dark that you cross once and leave behind you forever. Only a slow thinning, a gentle and gradual fading, the cold and the emptiness growing, a little deeper with every quiet length you drift, until at last you could no longer say where the Sunday's own country stops and the space between the stars begins. The edge was never a line at all. It was only ever this, a soft and patient fading, so slow and so gentle that you pass all the way through it without ever once feeling a border. So let the through line go now. All this long way out, we have carried that first small measure with us, the quiet gap between the Sunday and the earth, laying it down again and again, counting our slow steps against it. You can set it down here for good. There is nothing left out here to measure and nothing left at all to count. The map itself has run out, and there is no more road to follow, only the open dark and the slow, endless drift. And you are allowed now, at last, to simply drift, with nowhere to be and nothing whatsoever to solve. Ahead of you lies the wide space between the suns, wider and emptier and more silent than anything you have crossed so far tonight. The nearest star to our own is called Proxima Centauri, and it lies about 4 light-years away from us, which is to say that its light, moving faster than anything else in all the universe, still takes 4 long years to reach the place where you first began. 4 whole years of travel, for the light alone. And you are drifting slower than light, far slower, so much slower that the true distance can hardly even be spoken of. Proxima Centauri is only the very nearest of them, only the first. Beyond it, the stars go on and on, farther and fainter, more of them than you could ever hope to count. Each single one a distant sun with its own quiet dark wrapped around it, and very likely its own frozen shell, and its own small worlds, all sleeping just as ours do. Consider this once, gently, and then let the thought dissolve. The little craft we have sent out from the Earth, the very fastest ships our hands have ever built, move outward through the dark at a speed that could carry them all the way around our whole world in less than a single hour. And even they, hurrying on through the emptiness for tens of thousands of years, would still need something like 70,000 years to cross the gap to just one neighboring star. 70,000 years of silent, patient drifting, only to reach one other light among the countless many. No hurry could ever be enough out here. There is no reason at all left to hurry. You can let the wanting to arrive fall gently away now, the way everything else has already fallen away behind you. And now, if you turn one last time and look back the way that you have come, you will find the Sunday. Not the great warm center that once ruled the inner worlds, not the kind light that warmed the pale blue home we left behind so very long ago tonight. From out here, it is only a small light now, a single cool point, no brighter than the countless others scattered all around it. The one star we lived beside has become just one star among the stars, a single quiet spark in a wide field of quiet sparks, and you could no longer pick it out at all if you did not already know just where to look. That small pale light is where we began. It is still there, even now, steady and far and faithful, holding all its little worlds in their places without a sound, keeping the long night for everyone still sleeping beneath it. There is nothing more now to reach for. Nothing waits ahead of you that you must find, and nothing lies behind you that you must keep. The worlds are all accounted for and drifting in their slow, sure orbits. The comets are far below in the cold. The last thin light of home is only one gentle point among the many, and the dark ahead is soft and deep and endless and asks nothing at all of you. You have carried yourself all the way to the edge of everything, and there is nothing here that wants anything from you but to let you rest. So there is nothing left to carry, and no one left to be, and nowhere left to go. All the long distances are behind you now, folded quietly away, and the counting is finished, and the map is put to rest. What remains is only this soft, weightless dark, and your slow breath moving through it, and a stillness wide enough to hold you for as long as you need. Sink into it. Let it take your whole weight, and let go of the last small hold you have kept upon the waking day, and let the dark carry it off gently into the quiet. So let it go dark now, softly. Let the stars grow still and cold and few. Allow the drift to slow until it is barely moving, and then slower still until it is not moving at all. And let yourself settle here in the long dark, where there is nowhere to be, and nothing to solve, and no edge left anywhere to cross. You have come all the way out to the quiet space between the suns, and you may stay here as long as you like, weightless and unhurried and perfectly at ease. Feel how still it has become, and how far away the day is now, how small and warm and distant, like a light left on in a house you left long ago. Your breathing has slowed all on its own, and the drift has slowed with it, and there is nothing left that needs doing. Nothing left that needs thinking, nothing left at all, but this soft and endless quiet holding you gently on every side. There is no more journey now, only this. No Sunday to leave, no worlds to pass, no edge ahead and none behind, only the soft dark and your own slow breathing and the drift growing quieter with each of them. Let the words fade too, if they wish to. You do not need to follow them any further. Whatever is left to say can go on somewhere far off and gentle, a murmur beneath the dark while you slip down past it into sleep. Rest now, let the last light fade and the last sound soften, and let the dark fold gently closed around you. There is nothing left to do now, nothing at all but to sleep.